When life pushes you to the edge, when storms rage around you, and the weight of the world feels like it's pressing against your chest, that's not the time to give in. It's the time to rise. It's in the fire, not the comfort, that strength is forged. True power is not found in avoiding pain, but in facing it with unshakable faith. There will be days when you are misunderstood. There will be nights when you cry in silence, when the voices of doubt scream louder than your dreams. But remember, God never promised it would be easy. He promised He would be with you every single step. Even in the valley of shadows, He walks beside you. Strength doesn't come from having it all together. It comes from leaning on a higher power when you're falling apart. It comes from praying when you're weak, standing when everything inside tells you to give up, and trusting that your story has purpose even when you don't understand the plot. It comes from knowing that God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. You are not alone. You were never meant to fight alone. The same power that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. That's not a metaphor, that's truth. That's real. So stop letting your fears speak louder than your faith. Stop shrinking to fit into a world that God called you to transform. You were born for this moment. Every trial you've faced, every disappointment, every tear, they were not wasted, they were preparation. Preparation for the greater calling on your life. You were made to move mountains, not bow to them. You were made to shine, not hide. You were made to stand strong, not in your strength, but in His. So when you're tired, when you're broken, when your knees hit the ground, don't stay there. Pray, rise. Keep moving, because the world doesn't need another perfect person. It needs someone willing to fight, someone who stands tall in the fire and says, God is still good. Be bold, be relentless, be strong in every situation, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. This is your time. Walk in faith, speak with purpose, live with power, and never ever quit. There will be nights when the house grows quiet around you, when the echo of your own thoughts becomes louder than any voice of encouragement you've ever known. In those moments, the darkness seems to seep into your bones, and tears come unbidden. Each one a testament to the weight you carry, the dreams that feel just beyond your grasp, the prayers that seem to bounce off an uncaring ceiling. It's easy to believe that everyone else has it figured out, that everyone else sleeps soundly, buoyed by hope and confidence, while you lie awake, tangled in the sheets of doubt, wondering if you are enough, if you will ever be enough. But here's the truth. Those tears are not a sign of failure. They are proof that you are alive, that you feel deeply, that you still believe something bigger is possible. The nights of weeping are the crucible in which your faith is tested and strengthened. When you imagine the heroes of faith, the ones whose stories are told and retold across generations, you don't remember their victories alone. You remember their desperation, their moments of despair, their cries for mercy in the midst of battle. You remember Jacob wrestling until dawn. You remember Hannah pouring out her soul until her countenance changed. You remember David singing psalms from the cave of Adullam. Their nights of tears became the fuel for their dawns of triumph. God does not promise a life free from sorrow, but He does promise His presence in every shadowed valley. He does not guarantee that storms won't come, but He does stand as your refuge, your shelter, your unshakable fortress when the wind howls and the floodwaters rise. Your tears then are not wasted. They are the language of your heart reaching out for Him. Every sob, every whisper of why, is a stepping stone toward intimacy with the one who knows you better than you know yourself. In those quiet hours when you feel most alone, He is at work, carving out space in your heart to pour in His strength, His comfort, His hope. When the inner voices tell you that you're unworthy, that you've failed too many times, that you're too broken to be used, remember this. The very essence of the gospel is that grace finds you in your brokenness. Christ did not come for the self, satisfied, or the perfect. He came for the weary, the burdened, the lost. He lifted up the downcast, gave sight to the blind, turned mourning into dancing. What feels like your lowest moment can become the stage for His greatest display of mercy. The tears you shed are not the end of your story, but the prelude to your testimony. In the stillness of the night, when doubt whispers that God is distant, let your tears become prayers that pierce the heavens. Let your trembling voice cry out, "Lord, I can't do this on my own," and then listen for the gentle assurance that you are held, that you are loved, that you are not forgotten. The same power that parted the Red Sea, that stilled the storm with a word, that raised the dead to life. This power lives in you. It works through you. It sustains you when every other source of strength has run dry. You may wonder why the darkness comes at all. Why must you endure pain and rejection and uncertainty? But consider the paradox of faith. It is in our weakness that His strength is perfected. When you reach the end of yourself, when you have nothing left to give, that is when His grace abounds toward you in ways you could never manufacture on your own. If life were always easy, if every path were smooth and every burden light, you would never learn to rely on the unseen hand that guides your steps. The struggle itself becomes the invitation to lean into a power far greater than your own. Picture a tree growing on a mountainside, its roots twisting through rock, seeking water in the driest crevices. The harder the ground, the deeper the roots must dig. In the same way, adversity forces your faith to sink roots into the living water. Those nights of tears cultivate resilience, tenacity, and unshakable trust that carries you through the next trial and the next. You emerge not despite your struggles, but because of them, strengthened, seasoned, more aware of the one who carries you. Don't waste your pain by hiding it or explaining it away. Offer it instead as a sacrifice of praise, a raw and honest worship that says, "Here I am, Lord, fragile, frightened, yet clinging to you." In that vulnerability, there is power. In that surrendered heart, there is breakthrough. The enemy would have you believe that tears are a sign of defeat, but God sees them as the fragrance of your faith, the evidence that you refuse to let go even when everything within you trembles. And remember, every night has its dawn. You may not see it coming. You may not feel it stirring as you lie in the dark. But dawn always comes. The light pierces the horizon even when you cannot yet perceive it. Your victory is on the way, though it may be wrapped in unexpected ways. The struggles of tonight shape the strength of tomorrow. The prayers you utter between tears will become the song on your lips in the morning. So when the tears fall, don't turn away. Wipe them, yes. Don't stay in despair, but don't resent them either. Welcome them as part of your story, a signpost pointing you toward deeper reliance on God. And as you rise with the sun, carry with you the knowledge that you've walked through the valley and come out stronger. The same God who met you in the dark will meet you in the light. And every step you take, He goes before you, beside you, behind you, a constant companion in every season. Press into the promise that you are never alone, that your tears are precious in His sight, that He is working all things together for your good. Let your pain become the platform for praise, your sorrow the soil for strength. You are being prepared not just for the next challenge, but for the glorious inheritance that awaits those who trust in Him. Rise, carry your scars as badges of honor, and step forward in the unbreakable power of His love. There will be nights when the world falls silent around you, when every light seems dimmer, and the only sound is the beating of your own heart echoing in the stillness. You lie awake under heavy blankets of doubt, replaying conversations, agonizing over mistakes you can't undo, wondering if anyone truly sees the real you. Tears escape in the dark, each one carrying the weight of unspoken fears, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear that you'll never measure up. In those moments, you feel small, isolated, as though you're trapped in a glass box while life moves on just beyond your reach. It feels as if everyone else has clarity and confidence, while you're left fumbling in the shadows, desperate for a glimpse of hope. But understand this, your silent tears are not a sign that you're weak. They're an indication that you're alive, that you care deeply, that you're earnestly striving for meaning and purpose. Every great story of faith is punctuated by night. Jacob wrestling until dawn, his hip dislocated yet unyielding. Hannah pouring out her heart in sorrow, only to be transformed. Elijah huddled under a broom tree, convinced even God had abandoned him. These moments of raw vulnerability are the crucibles in which faith is forged. Pain unlocks a deeper level of trust, a surrender of self-reliance that opens space for divine strength to flow in. God does not promise a life without dark nights. There is no guarantee against hardship, but He does promise His presence in every lonely moment, His comfort in every sorrow, His light in every shadow. When you feel abandoned, when you whisper, "Where are you, Lord?" He is right there beside you, closer than the beat of your heart. Those tears you shed in secret are seen by Him. They are precious to Him. He collects each one, not to remind you of your weakness, but to demonstrate His compassion. His love is not reserved for those who appear strong. It adorns those who feel broken. It's easy to believe that faith means having unwavering confidence, that strong people never question or despair. But true faith often looks more like wrestling than quiet assurance. It's saying, "I don't understand, but I trust you." Even when your vision is clouded by pain, it's pressing your forehead into the dirt in prayer, not because you feel powerful, but because you know you are powerless without Him. The nights of weeping become the runway from which you launch into a new dawn of obedience, resilience, and clarity. When the voices of doubt in your mind roar louder than your own prayers, choose to listen to the still, small voice of God instead. Speak His promises over your situation, that He never leaves nor forsakes you, that He works all things together for good for those who love Him, that His strength is made perfect in weakness. Do not allow the enemy to define your worth by your brokenness. Let God define it by His grace. You are His child, created in His image, purchased at a price, destined for greatness not because of what you've accomplished, but because of whose you are. Draw near to Him through Scripture and prayer, even when your spirit feels numb. Read David's Psalms of Lament and watch how he moves from despair to worship. Study the Apostle Paul, who learned to rejoice in his weaknesses because they revealed Christ's power. Let their examples remind you that tears are not the opposite of faith. They are often the gateway to a deeper, more authentic relationship with God. In the darkness, cling to His Word as if it were a lifeline, because it is. Know also that you are not alone in your struggle. The community of believers is meant to bear one another's burdens. Share your heart with someone you trust, a friend, a mentor, a small group. Admitting your pain does not make you a burden. It creates space for others to step into the role God designed them for, to comfort, to pray, to encourage. In vulnerability, you build relationships rooted in truth rather than pretense. You discover that healing often begins when pain is shared and illuminated by the light of fellowship. As dawn breaks and the first rays of sunlight pierce the horizon, lift your face towards the sky and let the warmth remind you that every night has its end. Your tears watered the seeds of resilience in your soul, and now you are ready to rise. You may emerge with swollen eyes and a weary body, but you carry within you a testimony of God's faithfulness. The lion, roar of your spirit, once muted by fear, now resounds with renewed determination. You walk forward not because you have banished all doubt, but because you have seen, first hand, the power of God to uphold you when you had nothing left to stand on. Carry with you the knowledge that the same God who meets you in darkness also equips you for the battles ahead. He turns mourning into dancing, sorrow into joy, weakness into strength. No matter what tomorrow holds, you have already proven that you can endure the long hours of seeking, crying out, and waiting. You have discovered that every tear is a step closer to his heart, every night of struggle a classroom for his lessons of perseverance. You were not created to be a solitary warrior, but a triumphant overcomer held in the palm of Almighty God. Let your past hardships fuel your compassion for others, and let your emerging strength ignite faith in those still in their darkest hour. Speak boldly of the mercy that met you in the night, the courage that rose from your tears, the hope that carried you into the light. Believe that the God who calmed the storm within you can calm any storm without you. Stand firm in the truth that no adversity is too great, no valley too dark, no night too long for his deliverance. Your story is still unfolding, and the chapters ahead are being written by the author and finisher of your faith. Walk into them with confidence, knowing that you have already been crafted by his hands to withstand every trial and to shine brilliantly when the morning comes. Let your life be a proclamation that strength is born not from ease, but from endurance, not from unbroken days, but from nights of honest tears. Every challenge you face, every silent sob you hide, is becoming the foundation of a faith so robust that nothing can shake it. This is the power of God at work within you, a power that transforms despair into worship, weakness into boldness, and tears into testimony. Rise, then, into your calling, bearing the marks of your journey as proof that God's grace is sufficient, his presence unwavering, and his love the greatest source of strength in any situation. The promise of companionship in every step is the anchor that keeps the soul from drifting when life's currents grow treacherous. You may not have asked for the trials that came. Perhaps you prayed for relief, for a smooth path, for certainty, but you did ask for God's presence. And in that, you have received more than you could have imagined. Even when your surroundings shift like sand beneath your feet, even when the road forks in directions you never planned, you do not walk alone. In the emptiest room, in the loneliest moment, the Creator of the universe is at your side, his faithful hand on your shoulder. You cannot outrun him, you cannot outwit him, you cannot slip from his grasp. His promise is not rooted in your performance or your emotional state. It rests on his own unwavering nature. How often have you felt the sting of abandonment when prayers seemed to go unanswered or when help arrived too late? Those moments, instead of being proof of God's absence, are often where his presence is most profound. If you have eyes to see, a flicker of hope in the darkest hour is not coincidence. A sudden peace in the midst of a storm is not chance. He is there in the hand that reaches out to steady you, in the thought that guides you away from harm, in the gentle whisper that reminds you, I am with you. The Bible calls him Emmanuel, God with us, and that name is not a poetic flourish but reality. To believe that God is with you means you can face the day's battles with a different posture. You will still tremble, you will still question, you will still feel fear. But your fear loses its power when you remember that the eternal King walks beside you. A soldier who knows his commander is in the trenches, fights with a confidence his foes cannot comprehend. So it is with you. With every breath, you carry not just your own fragile heart, but the heart of the one who formed all things. This promise transforms the mundane as well as the monumental. The coffee you sip before dawn, the commute through traffic, the email you agonize over God is with you in those minutes as much as he is with you at a lonely hospital bed, with you in the ache of a broken relationship, with you in the thrill of a long, awaited victory. Every second of your life becomes holy ground because the one who inhabits eternity is present in your immediate reality. You are never simply passing through. You are always being held, being shaped, being known. When you fear that your weakness disqualifies you, lean into His presence. Your inadequacy is not a barrier, but the very place where His power is most evident. You do not have to muster your own strength. You simply have to remember whose you are. The God who whispered galaxies into being also knows your name, your heartache, your every need. That is why Paul could say, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," not as a Pollyanna slogan, but as a declaration rooted in first-hand experience of divine companionship. And what about tomorrow? Will you face another storm, another valley, another uncertainty? Almost certainly. But the beauty of the promise is that it never expires. It does not come with an asterisk or fine print. It is not contingent on your perfect obedience or your flawless performance. It stands because He stands. The psalmist did not promise fair weather. He promised a shepherd who leads you beside still waters and restores your soul. That shepherd walks with you through the valley of the shadow of death, and you need fear no evil, not because the valley is safe, but because the shepherd is there. This truth has practical implications. When you feel the weight of a decision, you don't wrestle alone. You invite the divine counselor into your deliberations. When you feel the pang of grief, you don't retreat into silence. You lean into the divine comforter who wipes every tear. When you feel the surge of joy, you don't hoard it. You praise the God who has made Himself known in both the mountaintop and the pit. Your life becomes a continuous conversation with the one who knows you best. Imagine the most trying season you've ever endured. Recall the moment when you thought you couldn't take one more step. Now picture God standing there, not at a distance, but beside you. His presence an unspoken assurance that your journey matters, that you matter. That grounding in relationship changes everything. You don't have to pretend you're okay. You don't have to muster courage you don't feel. You simply have to take the next step, because the one who holds the world in His hands holds your hand. And so, as you continue on the path before you, whether it leads through lush fields or barren deserts, through moments of triumph or seasons of trial, remember that His promise is for every step. He is not a distant deity who observes from afar. He is the Emmanuel who marches with you into battle and celebrates with you in victory. There is no place your life can go that His love cannot reach. There is no wound too deep that His grace cannot heal. There is no darkness so complete that His light cannot penetrate. Walk forward, then, with the assurance that every foot